A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of Allah, the all gracious, the all merciful. Hello to you all, dear viewers, and thank you again for being with us. As you have been with us during the last programs, we were talking about the techniques of Islamic propagation, and also how to deal with the audience, the mass audience or the group audience, in order to be more effective and to be more influential to the viewers. We have talked about in detail about the techniques of the media techniques, and also about those techniques some prominent figures have used during for example, during their activities. And more than 30 techniques we have introduced you during these 26 and 27 sessions in the previous sessions. So we have talked in detail about the elements of communication, the types, and also the skills of communication, how to be more influential. And we have mentioned that the very important element of communication, and also Islamic communication, is the knowledge about the target audience. If you know the target audience, you can better determine in which level you talk, and from which sources you use, and also which techniques you benefit from. However, we will continue today some of the other techniques which are used in Islamic propagation. According to the scholars, and also to the theoreticians who have talked about the techniques of Islamic propagation, is that one of the best methods is to refer to the previous nations and to the history. If you are delivering a lecture, for example, in a mass audience, and for example in a conference, in a meeting, or for example you have started a series of lectures and you want to be influential, one of the best and the great important points to be influential is to refer to the history and to the fates and the destiny of the nations in the previous times. For example, if you refer to Quran, we have in many occasions that, for example, وَذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِبْرَاهِيم, or وَذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ Musa, okay, or قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ سُنَنٌ فَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ, or أَوَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَيَنْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ كَانُوا أَشَدَّ مِنْهُمْ قُوَّةً. These verses says that refer to the traditions or the history of Moses or Abraham, or for example, don't you go on the earth and don't you travel, or don't you for example, don't you travel the earth to see and to witness what had happened to the previous nations. Referring to the previous nations' destiny and fates accordingly is one of the important techniques. Persuading the audience, okay, to refer to the history and to the stories of the different people, different tribes, or for example, if in Quran, if you refer to different stories in chapter of Qasas, or the chapter of stories, you will witness different and diverse stories of Quran which are talking about the previous nations, and you can get many lessons from those stories, and this is very beneficial and influential, and this is strongly recommended for the lecturers or the scholars who are giving lectures to persuade, because the history is always repeating, and the people are the same, although the nature or the surroundings or the technology or the atmosphere or these kinds of things are changing However, the people, the entity, the nature of the people and human beings, or for example, the needs of human beings, okay, are the same. So if you get benefit from the history, you can apply them today. And for example, if you apply the good points of the previous histories, you will be successful. If you don't, no, for sure not. So one of the techniques that you can refer to is the history, and also the history of the nations. And also one of the other techniques is which you can use in persuading the audience, and also to be beneficial, is the praise and, for example, threaten at the same time. You know, what does it mean? It means that you have to consider both sides when you are dealing with a group of people or a person. According to Quranic text, it is mentioned that you have to consider both sides. From one hand, when the audience is doing good deed, okay, you praise and say that excellent, for example, well done, and also give a gift or anything, you know, give a prize. So this is a technique, especially when you are dealing with the young generation. You know, one of the best techniques is that when you are talking to them, you know, the theory is not enough. It is not just enough to talk to the according to theories, or for example hypotheses, or the philosophies, or the ideas, I don't know, ideology or worldview or these things. You know, for the young generations, you know, you have to go from the very we can say the outward level of the things, and also to allocate some gifts to the audience. And if they are doing good job, so you praise them. At the other way around, if they are doing something wrong according to Quranic text, you have to punish, or you have to threaten, or you have to, for example, reject. You know, God the Almighty is the same. You know, He is not always praising even the bad doers or the evil doers. He is always punishing. You know, make them to suffer. You know, those who are evil doers. For example, in Quran we have that in chapter of Zumar, verse number 9, that are those who know and don't know the same? God says that for sure, those who know, I will praise them, I give them good news, they will go to heaven. And those who don't know, or they are not trying to know, for sure, it will be vice versa. So this is very important to refer to these verses. For example, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. God the Almighty says in chapter of Baqarah, verse number 152, that if you remember me, I will remember you. Okay? If you remember me, I will remember you. So, for example, in Imam Ali alayhi salam, in one narration says, in order to show that there is difference, that when he was talking to Malik al-Ashtar, you know, to his envoy, one of his companions, he described, and also it's better to say that ordered Malik that, "O Malik, don't be to the evil doer and the good doer the same. فَلَا يَكُونَنَّ الْمُحْسَنُ وَالْمُسِيءُ إِنَّكَ بِمَنْزِلَةٍ سَوَاءٍ." If they are good doer, you have to deal good with them. If they are bad doer or they are evil doer, so you have to punish them. So this is again one of the other techniques that you can be benefited from this technique, and to persuade the other and to be beneficial. Keep the both sides of punishment and also praising. One of the other techniques that in this session I'm going to talk about is the technique of persuasion. What does it mean? Persuasion is a technique which in many times can be beneficial, that you always give, you always use the emotional points and also good words and persuasive words in order to encourage the audience. This is very beneficial. For example, when a person is depressed or sad or unhappy or disappointed from a point, okay, or anything, when you persuade him that, for example, look, you are one of the best people I have seen ever, okay, or for example, I know you have some talents or aptitudes that the others don't have, or for example, I'm sure you are a really energetic person, okay. So these words give to the audience a very energy and also power, okay, and this will be very beneficial. This is one of the hidden energies in human beings' nature and mind, that persuasion awakens them. This is also also in the medicine, in the science of medicine, also the physicians believe that the persuasion is very effective in the audience. One of the tests that they have done is that, for example, they have gathered two groups. Both groups were sick and they were suffering from kind of illness, okay. The physicians have given these two groups different pills. One of the pills was real pill. For example, this was one of the pills that, for example, release you from pain, okay. And one of them was fake pill, placebo. They call it as placebo. They used placebos. It was very strange for us and also very interesting that both of the groups have been released from the pain. Although one of the pills was, for example, placebo, a fake pill. It wasn't the real pill. But the doctors told to the groups that these are real pills, and if you use them, for example, the pain will vanish, okay. But it is very important that the mind of the people and also the brain has analyzed in a way that, for example, if you use this pill, okay, it will remove your pain, okay. At the other way around, the other group which has used also the real pills, it was good. And there was another test. Okay, there was another test, and it was also a positive test, and the result was positive, that they give placebo to one group, and they gave real pill to one other group, and told to the first group that this placebo is a real pill, and if you use it, the pain, the sickness will be removed, and you will be healed. And told to the other group that this pill, which was in reality the real pill, said that this is not a real pill. This is just, for example, something to eat, and we are just testing, and we are not sure that your pain will be removed. And the strange point was that, from the first group, the placebo, the fake pills, have healed the patient. And the other one, which was real, didn't do anything. Didn't have any effect. So, the power of it is a kind of self-persuasion is very important, especially in the for example, in the old, on the elders, and also on the youngers. If you persuade them, you give them energy, and it is very influential. If you refer to for example, great leaders' speeches, they are always talking in a very energetic way and encourative, and they also saying that, for example, you are the best nations, you are one of the best groups, and I don't know these things, especially in the military services. They use it to persuade people in order to actually to be more dynamic. So also in Quran we have these words, for example, in chapter of Al Imran, verse number 139, that أنتم الأعلون إن كنتم مؤمنين, that you are victors if you are good and real believers. Okay, and sometimes this persuasion is by words, by talking. Sometimes it is by actions, or these points are very important. So this was one of the other techniques. One of the other technique is assimilation, or using the similarities, and also using some acronyms or some kinds of euphemisms. Okay, these are the points that are also very influential. For example, in Quran we have that also in chapter of Ibrahim, verse number 25, that God always gives examples of the history. Also, for example, gives examples to the nations that they understand. So this is one of the other techniques that you can use by giving examples. Always give example. Examples really clarifies or give, for example, illustrations, or give them some diagrams. These are always using, and maybe by one, for example, pattern or diagram, by one chart, you can give thousands of words of information that you cannot give it, for example, in 10 pages. So by using examples, illustrations, and also these points, it will be also very influential. And also one of the other techniques is comparison, comparing. For example, if you want to make the audience understand, is to compare. For example, give them two options. Compare. If you remember, we talked about the compare and contrast. So in Islamic text also it can be used, that compare and contrast. Show the audience the both sides, and also the both possibilities, and let the audience themselves decide which one is good and better and which one is not. So in Quranic verses you can refer to chapter of Yunus, verse number 34, or for example chapter of Joseph, verse number 39, and these verses, or for example in chapter of Rome, verse number 39 again, these are some comparison. For example, in chapter of Fatir, verse number 19 to 21, we have that أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما يستوي الأعمى والبصير ولا الظلمات والنور ولا الظل والحرور. Okay, never the disbeliever is alike with a believer, or never the blind is equal with a person who is insightful. Blind here means, of course, in the deeper meaning, is the person who cannot see the manifestations of God, the Almighty, or the person who is blind is not equal with a healthy person, for example. Or the darkness is not alike always with the light, with the daylight. And also, for example, the sun is not always alike with the shadow. Shadows are the one of the results of the existence of sun. So sun and shadows, light and darkness, blindness, and also being safe, and also these things, are the points that shows that God the Almighty says that these are not the same. So these were some of the other techniques that we can use in the issue of the propagation, and also giving the patterns and also examples, good examples and bad examples. This is also a kind of compare and contrast technique. And remember that if you paid attention in our previous discussions, that always repeat, and repetition is very important in the issue of in the issue of the propagation. And always remember that when you repeat one point, it will be more beneficial. Okay, this was another session of our class about the techniques of Islamic propagation and also communication. Until the next program, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.